alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you can all hear me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Okay. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, sir. We are going to continue our discussion, and inshallah today we'll be taking a new concept, that the concept of fi'l, inshallah. But before that, we'll do a quick recap. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Okay. Now, for the sake of recapping, we have discussed ism in detail, including harf, actually. We said that isms are names of places, persons, things, idea, adjective, adverb, all kinds of pronouns, right? And that's what we said. So ism also has four properties, right? We did mention that every ism would have a status, would have a number, would have a gender, and would have a type. Don't forget that, very important. No, you cannot define an ism without these four properties. In fact, we cannot do any i'rab. That is where we get stuck most of the time in our conventional way of learning Nahu. When we were asked, do i'rab of a particular ayah, or do the analysis, grammatical analysis of a particular ayah. Actually, what you are asked to do is to remember these four properties. Okay, so this time, what we have been able to do is to tell you those things you just need to look at in order for you to do the i'rab. And those are the four properties: status, number, gender, and the type. If you are able to mention them, you are basically doing the i'rab. I mean, i'rab is not a magic somewhere. It's not a, you know, all the expressions that we mention when we do the i'rab is actually declaring these four properties, but maybe in a different language, or, you know, in different terms. But it's the same thing we are doing. And those four properties, we mentioned their details, how to determine the status, and how to know if the status can really show by the signs at the end of the ism, how to determine if what it shows at the end should be heavy or light, for instance, and so on. And then we also learned that the ism itself can even occur twice, you know, in succession. You have two isms coming together, but forming one concept. Or an ism which is preceded by a harf, also making a concept. And those are the fragments we have learned, right? And those fragments are said to also be five of them. And we learned the idafa, mawsuf sifa, jaru majrur, ismul ishara mushar ilayh, and the inna and its sisters, as well as its ism. With this, the whole of ism has been discussed, and then we realized that after understanding the kinds of words, kinds of fragments, then we mentioned that if an ism starts a sentence, it's known as jumla ismiya. Okay, and when we have a jumla ismiya, it means this jumla or this sentence is starting with an ism, or this ayah in that regard. I mean, or by that extension, an ayah that starts with an ism definitely is jumla ismiya. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, for instance, right? It's starting with the word Allah, lafzul jalala, so it's jumla ismiya. So you have to then analyze it. When you are analyzing jumla ismiya, you need to identify the components. And we mentioned that the components of jumla ismiya are mubtada, khabar, and NBK, right? Mubtada, khabar, and MBK, muta'alliqun bi khabar. متعلق بخبر. So when we talk of jumla ismiya, we are talking about identifying what is the first word in the sentence, or what does it represent grammatically. We say every first ism represent the mubtada, or mubtada is actually literally means an ism that starts a sentence, right? That's the meaning of mubtada. It's not any, it's mubtada ay al ism alladhi budi'a bihi al kalam. Okay, the word which is an ism with which the sentence was started, that's mubtada. And then the khabar is the word or the phrase or the sentence that gives the information, okay, about the mubtada. And the mubtada, we say, raises curiosity anytime it is mentioned. Because when I say, for instance, Allahu, I want to say Allahu la ilaha illahu. Then I said Allahu. By saying Allahu, I bada'tul kalam bil ism mubtada. And then La ilaha illa huwa. Now this gives an information about, or it raises the curiosity of the mubtada, right? And by so doing, the whole of that becomes the khabar, and the khabar can be a single word, right? For instance, Allahu qadirun. Allah is able, one word, okay? For instance, when I say Ar-rajulu fil bayt, this is Ar-rajulu starting the sentence, but fil bayt is rather a fragment making the khabar. Okay, sorry, here it's called muta'alliq bi khabar, because the khabar is actually inside. Ar-rajulu mawjudun fil bayt. Okay, so the MBK becomes muta'alliq bi khabar, or Ar-rajulu akala at-ta'am. So the whole of akala at-ta'am is a sentence and its own, but it is the khabar. So the khabar can be a single ism, and it can also be a fragment, and it can also be a whole sentence. We need to know that. The most important thing is to know that the khabar erases the curiosity raised by the mubtada. Okay, and some of the markers that we have learned so far are that every ism is eligible to take dhamma, fatha, or kasra, right? Or to end with ani, aini, ina, or atun, or atin, or ends with waw, or alif, or ya, if it is asma al-khamsa. And every ism can have tanween, that is, it can be heavy, okay? And two isms can come together to make a concept, right? Like mawsuf sifa or mudaf ilay, which will not be separated by any word. And an ism can start a sentence and it can end a sentence, right? But an ism never takes sukun. Very important. So if you see a word with a sukun, it's never an ism. Okay? These are some of the things that we have learned so far about ism. And about harf, harf is very easy. You know, anytime you see a harf, it doesn't make sense, and it needs an ism or a fi'l to make sense. We have discussed an ism, a harf with an ism, like batakala wa min fi anala hatta ila, and the ism that comes after it receives the job. And every harf has a job to do. As we said, the harf come to do a job. Okay? We don't say ism makes a job. No, ism has no job. But a harf has a job to do, and that is to inflict jar status onto the ism that succeeds it. That's what we say. Like harf of jar, like harf of nasb, we come and learn harf of lightest and harf of light and so on. So any harf, one of the things we learn about harfs is that they have a job to do. So you can see just a harf standing somewhere without a job that it does. It does the job also in the succeeding harf, ism or fi'l. It does not work on the preceding ism or fi'l. It rather works on the succeeding ism or fi'l. So it can make the ism in front of it have nasb, like inna, anna, ka, anna, bi, anna, lakinna, later, and la'alla. They cause every ism that comes after it to be in the status of nasb. Okay, and we also mentioned that don't confuse rafa nasb jar with dhamma fatah kasra. Please, that's very key in this particular course. Rafa nasb jar are status. Dhamma, fatah, kasra are kind of signs of statuses, okay? a kind of sign, not the only sign, because una, ani, atun, or aini, ina, atin, or even waw, alif, and ya, in case of asma al-khamsa, are all signs of the ending part of an ism. Okay, good. Let's take a short break, 2 minutes, and we'll come back to start today's discussion. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay. Let's go straight to our slides. Okay. So today we are going to talk about fail. Before we talk about fail, let me give you a quick breakdown of what fail is. In Arabic, the moment you hear fail, an action, this is what we say. You cannot have, the moment we say fail, we are talking about a sentence. So fail is unlike ism in this regard. The moment you hear fail in fact, it's said that كل فعل جملة or يعتبر كل فعل جملة. Every fail is considered a sentence. Why? Because every fail has a file. Now, that's a very important thing that we need to put in our minds. Every fail has a file. Fail is the third or second type of word. You remember what we learned, ism, fail, harf. So we have discussed ism and harf, but we are left with fail. Fail is quite a unique in its sense that anytime I mention one fail, it means a sentence. So you cannot have a fail without a file. And if you have a file of a fail, it's done. Okay? When I say akela, the word akela means he ate. So it makes sense in itself, and it has a tense. Daraba, kataba, jalasa. It's one word, but it makes meaning and it has sense. Also, it makes sense and it has a meaning, but it's also stuck in time. So when I say jalasa and then I say yajlisu, or I say ijlis, they are all about ja, la, or jim, lam, and sin, but they make sense, but the sense also has a tense, right? So we say jalasa, he sat, yajlisu, he sits, or he is sitting, ijlis, sit. So the difference between ism and fail basically is that though both of them have meaning in themselves and they can stand alone, but a fail has a tense. Okay? Like zaman. Zaman is tense. Okay? And so we say every fail has a dua and a tense, right? And the fail are of three types, either past, present, or future. Now, the difference between future, past and present is fine, even in the context of English. But in the tense, in the sense of, in terms of the future, in Arabic, or in this particular program, we say the future is made up of two types of tenses, the amr and the nahi. So we don't have something called fi'l al-mustaqbal, for instance. We say fi'l amr and fi'l nahi. An action that is of a command nature and an action that is of a forbidden nature. I forbid you to do something in future, and I command you to do something in future. And so that's the meaning of al-amru, command, and an-nahi, forbidden. Past is madi, mudara is present. These are the tenses, different tenses that we are going to look at in terms of the fail. How do they behave? How do I identify fi'il madi? How do I identify fi'il mudara? How do I identify fi'il amr? Will be our discussion in this couple of days, inshallah. Okay. So let's quickly see what the slides are. Okay. Hope you can see my slides now. Okay. So anwa al-fi'l, types of fi'l, wal-jumla al-fi'liya, and the sentence that is known as fi'liya sentence. Okay, fi'liya sentence. Here in this particular course, you can say fi'liya sentence or fi'liya jumla. Okay, fi'liya jumla. Okay, or verbal sentence if you wish. Okay, now we have fi'l madi, the first we are going to start with. Fi'l madi or fi'lun madin. So it can be madin or madi. Okay, madin or madi. This is a sarf issue. We don't need to discuss it here. So fi'l madi or fi'lun madin means that the fi'l means a verb that is of madi tense, past. So past tense, past tense. Okay, good. We are going to look at how past tense behave. Now note, I want to give you this clue, and this clue is very important. That's why how, well structured this course is. And we try to not let you forget your isms, but to ensure that even when we are discussing harf, we tell you the relationship between harf and ism. When we're discussing ism, we said anytime you see a harf, like harf jar, and inna and the sisters, these types of harfs can only precede an ism. That's what we said, right? They cannot precede a fi'l. Harf jar and harf of nasb and the sisters. Now, we come into fail. Fail has a relationship with the pronouns, and you know pronouns are isms. Now, when we say every fail has a file, the file we mean there is the pronoun. So the damir inside the fail is the file. Now tell me how we will be able to identify our fails and the doers of our fails if we forget our pronouns. It's impossible, right? And that's why we were sharing earlier that these pronouns are the backbone of the language. Now, if you have not learned your huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu, please just log off, leave the class slowly, go perform ablution, do 2 rakah and come back. Else you are going to be lost in this discussion. You would not understand it. Okay? It will not work. If you don't know what your huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu, and what they represent and their equivalent attached pronouns. If you don't know this well and it's not well seated with its meanings, please don't start this. You are going to get more confused. You have 2 things to do. Either to do istighfar, keep on doing your istighfar from now until we finish. Forget about what I'm going to say. Or you go do your wudu and do some 2 rakah and pray that you understand. Okay? Anyway, so look at this table and leave the fails first. Look at the arched areas. Huwa, huma, hum. You remember these tables, right? Singular, pair, plural. And you remember this side, 3rd person, both masculine and feminine. 2nd person, both masculine and feminine. And 1st person has no masculine and feminine. Somebody will ask, why? That means you were not studying. You did not revise your pronouns well. You remember we said the pronouns have 3 different persons, right? 3rd person, 2nd person, and 1st person. The 1st person, both masculine and feminine, are the same. Okay, so masculine and feminine will say ana, masculine and feminine will also say nahnu. So there's no difference. Okay, but in the case of 2nd person, there is difference between anta and anti, antuma and antuma, even though it's 1 word, antum and antunna, even here. Okay, and then 3rd person, huwa here, huwa for masculine, here for feminine. Huma, huma, both are sound the same, but they will differ when we come to understand them, how they deal with their fi'l. And then hum and hunna for plural, masculine and feminine respectively. Now, let's come to today's discussion. When I say Nasara, he helped, Nasara, he helped, the explanation here is that Nasara has a doer, and the doer is huwa. Nasara, the doer is huma. Nasaru, the doer is hum. Nasarat, the doer is here. Nasarata, the doer is huma. But the huma is the feminine one. The feminine one is ta. The masculine one is a. Don't forget that. Nasarna is hunna. I hunna, nasarna. You can decide to say the na here. Na is significant here, right? Na, okay? Anta nasarta. So nasarta, the doer here is anta. Nasartuma, antuma. Nasartum, antum. Nasarti, anti. Nasartuma, antuma. But this one is the feminine one. Nasartunna, antunna. Nasartu, ana. Look at where my mouse is, and that's where you have the marker. Nasarna is na. Na, not na. So you can see that I'm just looking at the end. Na, tu, tunna, tuma, ti, tum, tuma, ta, na, ta, u, and a. Okay. So when I say, if I should remove this word and put in there, jalasa. So this one will be jalasa. jalasa, jalasu, jalasat, jalasata, jalasna, jalasta, jalastuma, jalastum, jalasti, jalastuma, jalastunna, jalastu, jalasna. So you can see that the jalas keep on mentioning, but the ending are what determine or what gives me an idea of the dua, the ending. So anytime I see a word with the ending having a, with 3-letter words, then the dua is huwa. So jalasa, kharaja, dakhala, fataha, and so on. They are all huwa as a, they have all huwa as a dua. Okay, so the fa'il here is huwa. Now, the reason why we need to mention these is, for instance, I'm sure all of you remember when you were learning the Nahu in the conventional way. Okay, they will tell you that it is marfu'un bi something, and then you don't even understand why is it marfu'un bil waw or marfu'un bi subutun nun, and then you don't even understand what it means really in terms of the meaning. But in this case, we are saying if you see this waw and alif, then it's hum. So the fa'il is hum, and hum is a pronoun, and the pronoun that you know, it has a meaning. They. Okay? But when you say the waw is the fa'il, for instance, I mean, I'm not saying what you learned before is wrong. But what I'm saying here is that it makes more sense when I say the dua is hum than to say the dua is waw. Waw is not a pronoun. So it makes it easy to understand if I say hum is the dua here than to say waw is the dua, whilst waw is not a pronoun and waw is not a human being. How can it work, or how can it do something? When I say is the sign of the dua of huma, and but then when I ask you who is the dua in Nasara and you say huma, it makes sense than saying the alif here is the dua, for instance. Alif cannot be a dua, because if you tell me alif is a dua, that means alif can represent something in Nahu. And in this case, we say no, huma. Rather say huma is the dua here. So it makes it easy for you to relate and say, okay, huma means both of them, two of them. Hum means they, masculine plural. So anytime I see like this, waw and alif, number one, I must know that it's a fi'l. Number two, I have to also know that it is what? It is a dua that is representing hum here, or hum is representing the dua here. Here, nasarat, anytime I see fi'l madi like this with a ta at the end, I know the dua is here. Nasarata, huma for feminine because of the ta. Nasarna, nun niswa for hunna. Note, there is difference between tunna and hunna. Tunna, hunna. The tunna has a ta. The hunna has no ta after the sukun. But their marker is this sukun before the nun. The sukun before the nun. But this nun has a shadda and it has a ta for antunna. But this is for hunna. I'm just trying to give you some tips to understand the fi'ls. Nasarta is anta. Nasartuma is antuma. Nasartum is antum. Nasarti is anti. And nasartuntuma is antuma. Nasartunna is antunna. You remember this level, the second person level. You remember when we talk about the pronouns, we said the markers here is what? Ant. So it's a anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. So it's all about antunna, and so it's having the ant. Now those ants, if you come to the fail, just remove the ant, and then the last letter, put it in front of the fail. So you see, here you have an, you remove your an, and then you are left with the ta. You remove your an, you are left with the tuma. You remove your an, you are left with the tum. So you add the tum to the root letter of the fi'l. You are having an t, you remove the an, you bring the t down. You remove the an here, you bring the tuma down. You remove the an and you bring the tunna down. So it's easy to identify the doer in the second persons more than in the third person, right? So in the second person, you can't make a mistake of knowing who is the doer in nasarta or jalasta or katabta. Just remove the an and you remember your anta. Here, antuma. Remove the an, you have tuma. Antum. So anytime we hear tum on the fi'l, we know it's fi'l madi. Particularly if you haven't it like this: nasar, jalas, katab, zahab, kharaj, katab, and so on. You have the pronoun quickly identified by the sounds. Nasarti, anti, jalasti, fahimti, kharajti, katabti, qumti, and so on. Antuma, farahtuma, fatahtuma, rakibtuma, antunna, zawwajtunna, a'taytunna, labistunna, fatahtunna. Ana darastu, ana katabtu, ana labistu, and so on. Nahnu fahimna, nahnu kharajna, nahnu darabna, nahnu fahimna, nahnu fatahna, and so on. Okay, good. Now, in a whole, what I want you to remember here, inshallah, is the importance of our pronouns. Okay, the huma, huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. That is how the conjugation is done for every fi'l. If you are not able to put every fi'l madi in the conjunction of the, in the conjunction of all the pronouns, then you cannot understand jumla fi'li. So we have done with fi'l madi. Huwa nasara, huma nasara, hum nasaru, hiya nasarat, huma nasarata, hunna nasarna, anta nasarta, antuma nasartuma, antum nasartum, anti nasarti, antuma nasartuma, antunna nasartunna, ana nasartu, nahnu nasarna. Okay, good. Now let's look at some of the information, additional information here about attaching pronouns to fi'ls. You remember what we said, that pronouns have good relations with the fi'ls. Now, you recall that pronouns attached to fi'ls are in nasb status. I remember telling you this because they are details. Anytime you see a pronoun attached to a fi'l, it is maf'ul. Don't forget that. Note that again. Pronoun attached to a fi'l is maf'ul. But pronoun attached to an ism is mudaf ilayhi. Please write it down because it is one of the key things that is called as-sahl al-mumtani'. It's very easy when I say it, but if you don't hold it, it can be very, very, very costly. It costs you a lot. But if you know it from the first time, you are good. Pronouns attached to fi'ls are maf'ul. Forget about the kind of maf'ul for now. It's maf'ul. Pronouns attached to isms are mudaf ilayhi. And you know what mudaf ilayhi means. Mudaf ilayhi means there is an ism, two isms. One is possessing the other. Okay? The he is possessing whatever. When I say kitabuhu or khitamuhu, khitamuhu, that means it's ending. So the ending belongs to it. So there's possession. So anytime you see a pronoun attached to an ism, the i'rab is simple, mudaf ilayhi. So even if you don't know it, but you know that this is an ism, it's not a fi'l, then there is idafa. There is a concept of idafa. But if it is a fi'l and you see a pronoun attached to it, then there is a fi'l fa'il. That particular attached pronoun is maf'ul. Okay. Now, how do we translate such an expression like nasara, ni? You remember ni in the pronouns, attached pronouns for ana. You remember them? Attached pronouns for ana is what? I, ni. E, ni. The E is for isms, mudaf ilayhi. The ni is for fi'l. This is the ni. Because the ni, like in Hausa, ni. Okay? Ya bani, a'tani. So, Rabbi zidni, karamin, ni. So ni is easy for those of you who speak the Hausa, right? Good. Now, what we are learning here is how do we translate it if you have an attached pronouns? You remember your attached pronouns. Who, he, huma, hima, hum, him. Ha, huma, hima, hunna, hinna. Ka, koma, kum, ki. Koma, kunna, inina. These pronouns, how do we translate them when they are attached to a fi'l? The first thing is to identify and ignore them. The second thing is to translate the fi'l itself. And then the third thing is to translate the attached pronoun itself, and then you put them together. So this is exactly what is done here. So that is the trick. Anytime you see an attached pronoun to a fi'l, separate them with your eyes and minds, and then translate them separately and then put them together. Very easy. These are the examples here. So nasara is nasaraha. You see, so nasara ha. So the ha is an attached pronoun. How do I translate it? Separate it. So you see the color has helped us separate it here. You know, the S.A.I.D Academy is specialist in color coding. So these are some of the things we do. You color code. Very soon, we will be learning how to color code all the verses of the Quran, and inshallah, you will be surprised on how it really helps us. Because actually, if you look at this with the color coding, you realize that it's easy then for me to be able to identify my ha, u, ni, kunna, unna, na, hu, right? Yeah, that's the trick. So nasara ha means the ha is an attached pronoun. I'll separate the nasara from ha. I'll translate the nasara as he helped and ha as her. And then nasara ha, he helped her. Okay? Nasar tu, I'll separate it like this. So nasar tu is the actual fi'il and fa'il. Nasar tu. So tu is for ana. So I help him. Nasarat here. Anytime you hear the start with a sukun is for feminine. Okay? One is to a fi'il. Ni is me. So nasarat ni. Allamna kunna. See, allamna kunna. Allamna, this na is the fa'il here. So fi'il fa'il. But note, these are all fa'ils inside, okay? Okay? Damir, this damir is inside. Allamna, we helped, sorry, we taught. Kunna, you, feminine. All of you, feminine. Allamtuma, so allamtuma, you can see the tuma, which is the dua here, but this is an attached pronoun. Okay? Now, when we say attached pronoun to a fi'il, somebody will say, well, what, this one, is it not also attached pronoun? No, this one is not attached pronoun. This tuma is the pronoun that is the doer inside the fi'il. So there's difference between tuma here and huma. This tuma is not an attached pronoun. This tuma is an inside pronoun because it's inside the fi'il. Because there is no, the word is not allam. The word is allam tuma, because every fa'il has a fa'il. So the fa'il in this case, the inside fa'il is tuma. The inside fa'il here is na. The inside fa'il here is here. The inside fa'il here is ana. The inside fa'il here is huwa. So that's how it goes. Allam tumuna. Now mu, there's nothing like mu, right? But we have allam tum, antum. So anytime you have the antum, if you have an attached pronoun to it, you will bring this standard wow. Please don't ask me what wow is that. That's what the Arab said. The Arab says anytime you are attaching a pronoun to antum, if the antum is attached to a fi'il, or if the antum is the doer of a fi'il, then if you attach a pronoun to it, you have to say ooh, this ooh has to be there to allow a simple, easy flow. A salasa, we call it salasa al-lugha. Okay? How the lugha flows. The lugha doesn't want awkwardness, you know, in the way it's pronounced. So you don't want to say allamtumna. Allamtumna will make your mouth look a little bit awkward. But when you say allamtumuna, muna, it flows. Okay, that's what is known as salasa Okay. Allamtumuna. So allamtum, the dua is antum and na is maf'ul. Qaluhu, qalu. So the moment you hear ooh is about the last third corner. So huwa humahum. Who like nasaru. So nasara, nasara, nasaru, qalu, zahabu, mashu, and so on. And then u is the pronoun, right? So how do we do the translation of attached pronoun? The trick is easy. Separate the fi'il and the fa and the maf'ul. Translate them separately. If you are translating them separately, then you will translate the fi'il and the fa'il, and then you translate the pronoun separately, and then you add them together. Okay. Now, this is how it's done. And let's look at some of the examples here quickly before we go for our second break. Please sharpen your fingers. I'm going to ask questions. Get your keyboards up, sharpen them, and start with Bismillah. Okay, I'm going to ask questions. We are going to identify the attached pronouns in the following. Not only that, we're also going to identify the doer inside the field. Okay, not only identify the attached pronouns, but also identify the doer. So the difference between the doer, which is also a pronoun, but inside pronoun, and also the attached pronoun, which is also a pronoun. So don't forget that. Okay, the inside pronoun is always, you know, it represents the independent pronoun. Don't forget that. The inside pronoun represents the independent pronoun, but the attached pronoun is always the attached pronoun, not the independent pronoun. So what I mean is that, for instance, here, the nasara, the doer here is huwa, not who. The doer here is what? Huwa, not who. But the attached pronouns is ha, not here. Okay, very good. So now we look at this. Let's take number one. Ikhtartuka. First of all, where is the fi'il? Tell me the exact fi'il, only the fi'il. When I say the fi'il, I mean you cannot have a fi'il without the fa'il. So what is the fi'il? The fi'il alone. Can you write the fi'il? You can transliterate it, and you can also give it to me in Arabic. What is the fi'il in ikhtartuka? Again, okay. Is no. Come try again. No. Try again. What is the fi'il? Is ikhtartu. Correct. The fi'il is ikhtartu. Okay. Now, who is the fa'il in that fi'il? Who is the fa'il, or what is the fa'il in that fi'il? Absolutely, Anna. Now, what is the attached pronoun here? Now we come to the question of what is the attached pronoun? This might sound like a joke, but that is really the i'rab. Now you are knowing how to do the i'rab. Please participate. Don't just sit down. If you cannot type fast, just make sure you have a notebook somewhere and you are writing these answers. They are very important. Else, I mean, you just came here to add to the numbers. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. What is the do? No. Yes, it's the kaf. Yes, the kaf is the attached pronoun. Okay. What is the independent equivalent of the kaf? What is the independent equivalent of the kaf? Yes, Nabila, is anta. Very good. So yes, very good. So you need to know these answers. In this course, we just don't tell you what it is. We also tell you what it is not. It's very important for you to know that this kaf represents anta, but because it is attached, that's why it is kaf. You need to know that this two represents ana, and that ana is the independent pronoun, which is supposed to be the doer inside the fi'il. Very important. Okay. So in this case, we have the fi'il as ikhtartu, and the doer is ana. The kaf is maf'ul bihi, representing anta. Okay. Now, ja'athum. Give me the fi'il, the fa'il, the maf'ul. We are doing the i'rab already, by the way. Give me the fi'il, fa'il, maf'ul. So ja'at is the fi'il. What is the doer? Who is the doer? Anytime we mention the fi'il, don't forget the fa'il. And the fa'il is ja'at here, mashallah. And the very good. And what is the maf'ul here? In this case, the attached pronoun. Yes, it's hum. Very good. Ja'at hum. I ja'at here hum. Okay, the hum is third person plural. Very good. Fadhabahuha. Fadhabahuha. Give me the fi'il, the fa'il, the maf'ul. Fadhabahuha. Don't let one person be answering. Please make sure you participate. Fadhabahuha. So dhabahu is the fi'il. Very good. What is the fa'il? Who is the fa'il? Dhabahu. Who is the fa'il? Hum. Absolutely correct. And then where is the maf'ul in this sentence? What is the maf'ul in this sentence? Is it who? Are you sure? So who is, ha is now, is ha correct? Ha is the maf'ul. Yes, ha is the maf'ul which represent, yes. So in this case, ha is the maf'ul here, okay? Zabahuha, out zabahuha. In this case, we have the fail as zabahu, the dua is hum. Please don't say the dua is wow. As we said, wow is not a pronoun. So it's better to say whom. It makes sense that they, hum. How do I know it is hum? Because of the oo. If there was no this ha here, you would have seen the alif. That's standard alif. Okay. Akrahtana. Give me the fa'il. Only the fa'il in akrahtana. What is the fa'il in akrahtana? Akrahtana, who is the fa'il? Tell me the fa'il. When I say fa'il, I'm looking at the independent pronoun. No, I want just give me the fa'il of akrahtana. Give me the fa'il. Listen to the question. Anta, correct. Very good. Anta is the fa'il in akrahtana. Very good. Ja'alnaha. Give me the fa'il in the statement. Ja'alnaha. What is the fa'il in the statement? Very good. It's nahnu. Absolutely correct. Ja'altumuhum. Ja'altumuhum. Give me the fa'il in ja'altumuhum. Give me the fa'il in ja'altumuhum. Ja'altumuhum. No. Try again. When we are doing the ja'altumuhum. No. Try again. Antum. Absolutely correct. It's tum. You remember I said tum is for antum. Anytime you have antum and you want to attach something to it, then you have to bring the standard wow. Very good. Give me the maf'ul in khalaqnakum. What is the maf'ul in khalaqnakum? The maf'ul is what? In khalaqnakum. Yes, kum. Absolutely. Kum is the maf'ul. Very good. Wajadtumuhum. Wajadtumuhum. Give me the fi'l in wajadtumuhum. The fi'l. What is the fi'l in wajadtumuhum? No, 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 no. Try again. No, no. What is the fi'l? I always mention that a fi'l is the fi'l and the fa'il. Anytime I say fi'l, no, no. Try again. Try again. No. Where is the fi'l? Wajadtum. Yes, wajadtum is the fi'l. Wajadtum is the fi'l. Okay, wajadtum is the fi'l in this case. In wajadtumuhum, the wajadtum is the fi'l. Okay, so when I say the fi'l, I mean the fi'l and the fa'il. Very good. Very good. So what is the fa'il in wajadtumuhum? What is the fa'il there? Hey, Asma and Habib, you have been sleeping. Where have you been? Yes, antum, correct. Antum. And what is the maf'ul in wajadtumuhum? Very good, is whom. Now listen to this question carefully. Listen to this question carefully. Now, what is the root letter of the fi'l? What is the root letter? Now I'm taking you because you are all teachers and you are all ustads. What is the root letter of the fi'l here? The root letter is wajada. Very good. Now we understand. The root letters is wajada. Very good. Very good. Now we are on the same page. But when I say what is the fi'l, you have to give me the fi'l with the fa'il. But when I ask about the root letter, then you give me the wajada, which is, because in getting root letters, when we come to sarf, you get to understand that you have to give me the huwa form of the fi'l. The huwa form of the fi'l. Qultuhu, give me the maf'ul in qultuhu. The done to. Qultuhu. What is the maf'ul in qultuhu? Very good. Who is the maf'ul? What is the fa'il in qultuhu? What is the fa'il in qultuhu? Ana. Very good. Very good. What is the root letter of this fa'il? Qultuhu. What is the root letter? Qala. Absolutely. It's qala. Okay. That is very good. That is very good. Ataytumuhunna. 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 What is the fi'l? Here. Give me the fi'l. Try again. Try again. You know, these things, they sound easy. It's ataytum. Very good. It's ataytum. That is the fail. Ataytum. It became ataytumu because we are going to add the hunna to it. Okay? Yes, it is ataytum. And what is the maf'ul? The maf'ul is, yes, it's ataytum. Yes, the maf'ul is hum. Very good. Very good. What is the root letter of this fi'l? What is the root letter of this fi'l? There's difference between, yes, ata, not ata. Note, there is difference between ata and ata. This is ata. Ata is A-A-T-A-A, not ata. There's difference between ata and ata. This is Arabic. You see, Arabic, depending on, is ata, ata, not ata, not ata, not ata, but ata. There's difference between ata and ata and ata and ata bitta. Okay? Okay, let's take the last one here. Akbarnahu. Who is the doer here? The doer. Give me the doer here and I will clap for you. Give me the doer here and I will clap for you. Who is the doer here? Akbarnahu. Give me the doer and you deserve a clap. Try more. Akbarnahu. Who is going to get my clap? It's hunna. Very good. Hunna. MashaAllah. Akbarna is hunna, not nahnu. Not akbarna. Akbarna would have been nahnu. But akbarna, if you see a sukun, sukun, immediately after the sukun, you see nun fatha is hunna, not nahnu. Nahnu would have been na with mad alif. Okay? Okay, we'll keep it here, and then we'll come back quickly and do fi'l mudara. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa bihi nasta'in. I'm back. Hope we are all back. Now, let's look at Mudari. We are just finished with Madi. Very important thing about Madi is that we remember our pronouns well, and then we'll look at the end of the fi'l. We look at the end of the fi'l. Then we have a clue of what the fa'il or who the fa'il is. And if there's an attached pronoun, we also understand that this is an attached pronoun which is in maf'ul, which is maf'ul. These are the two things that are mainly associated with fi'l madi. Now, fi'l mudari is quite different from madi in the sense that we have, not only do we have different types, depending on if it's preceded by a certain harf or not, it also needs to be determined by certain markers. We call them Anita markers. Anita. Yes, Anita. Maybe if you know somebody called Anita, you can remember that. Or for some of you who have learned the Nahu, Anaitu. So you look at the Anaitu at the beginning, if you have any of those letters, either Hamza, Nun, Ya, or Ta. And then you also look at the end. So in Mudari, you look at the beginning, the onset, and the termination. You look at the beginning and the end of the fi'l for you to determine who is the doer. See how different Madi is from Mudari? I'm sure some of you would have said, well, maybe this is the first time I'm hearing this, or maybe not, but not in this context, linking it with the fi'l, Madi. Madi, I look at the end mostly. By looking at the end, I actually would be able to determine where the root letter is. And I didn't mention this at the beginning. Majority fi'ls in Arabic language are three-letter words. So when I say Nasara, Kuma, the possibility that the root letter is Nasara is very high. Ra'aytumuna, for instance, even though no matter how long it's from Ra'a, so you most probably it started, the first root letter is Ra. But the moment I hear, for instance, Nansuru, you see how you have two nun there. So there's high possibility that this must be a certain sign of Mudari. So that the next nun will become the root letter, and then the Sod and Ra become the two other three letters of the root letter, or the root letters. Okay. So for Mudari, what I want to say is that, remember, there are halves of Mudari. They are known as Anita, or Anaitu, or Atina, or whatever you are going to call it, right? It's Hamza, Nun, Ya, and Ta. Number two, endings would also determine the doer in the Mudari. Okay? So not only the ending, but the beginning and the ending in Fil Mudari. That's the only thing I would like to say here. Okay, let's look at the chart. But the common denominator is that you also still have to remember your pronouns. Huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. You can't run away from them. I did mention الضمائر هي العمود الفقري للغة العربية, that the pronouns are the spinal cord of the language. If you don't get them, that's where you see somebody speaking and then he is confusing the anta from antum and ti and tu and who and ha and kum and kuma and kunna and antunna and so on, right? But if you are able to have them well seated, they help a lot. Okay, good. Now look at how they manifest here. Huwa yansuru. What is the difference between this and the former one, the nasara? You can see that this is yansuru instead of nasara, madi, yansuru, mudari. The doer in both is what? Huwa. So nasara, the doer is huwa. Yansuru, the doer is huwa. The difference, this is present and the former is past. Mudari. How did I know? Yeah. Before the root letter. Yeah. Before the root letter, first root letter. Ah, so now I see. So you can see this here. You can see this here. That here. This ta. This ta. Another yeah. Ta. 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 Hamza and Nun. So you can see that the Hamza and Nun are only at the Alif and Nun, Ana and Nahnu level. But the Ta is most represented, followed by Ya. So Anita. or anaitu. Okay, very important. So when I say huwa yansuru, huma yansurani, you can easily put your eyes on the nasara, the root letter, and then you see what is added. Ya, ani, ya, una. Here there is no ending combination or ending letters, but ta and u. Ta, ani, ya, na, ta, u. Ta, ani, ta, una, ta, ina, ta, ani, ta, na. Now note this, ta, na, and this one is ya, na. So hunna yansurna, antunna tansurna. I don't want us to be reading this on and on and on because, I mean, all of you know how to read, right? Ana, a, and u. So ansuru, ansuru. You look at the beginning and the end to determine who is the doer. Nansuru, the na, u, nahnu. A, u, ana. So you can see, you can even say, okay. The Hamza I know for ana. So Hamza is also here, easy. Nun for nahnu. Ah, easy. Okay. All the ta, they have the ta. Very easy. Okay. The ta for anta. Anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antuna. They all have the ta. Very easy. The only difference here is that I have to look at the end also. So ta and u is anta. Ta and ani is antuma. For feminine, of course. Ta and una is antum. Sorry, this is for masculine. Ta and una, of course, both for the masculine and feminine are the same here. The only thing you have to remember, okay, is that you can just not look at the beginning only. You have to look at the beginning and the end. So huwa yansuru, huma yansurani, hum yansuruna, hiya tansuru, huma tansurani, hunna yansurna, anta tansuru, antuma tansurani, antum tansuruna, anti tansurina, antuma tansurani, antunna tansurna, ana ansuru, nahnu nansuru. The most unique among the fi'l mudari is this one. For anti. For anti, it has ina. Now, this is where the confusion sometimes comes. Some people will be thinking that this is like muslimina. They sound the same, right? Muslimina. But this is the key thing. The word starting with a meme all is an ism, so it's absolutely out of context now. You cannot see a fi'l starting with a meme in Arabic. Okay? Madi, sorry, I'm talking about mudari, of course. Mudari. Okay? Mudari can never start with a meme. So in this case, it cannot be the Muslimuna or Muslimina cannot be a fi'l. It's rather an ism. So it's out. But this, the ta tells you that is for anti. Ina is a very significant thing for, especially for anti, is the only one that's having this kind of ending. Okay? So it's very, very important and unique in the whole of the setup of mudari. So again, huwa yansuru, huma yansurani, hum yansuruna, hiya tansuru, huma tansurani, hunna yansurna, anta tansuru, antuma tansurani, antum tansuruna, anti tansurina, antuma tansurani, antunna tansurna, ana ansuru, nahnu tansuru. Okay, good. These are the things I was trying to explain. With all those that surutu that I've been doing, right? These are the things. Okay. Remember that the present tense will start with either na or nu, a or u, ta or tu, ya or you. Now, it's just the nun, hamza, ta, and ya. But they can come with fatha or dhamma, fatha or dhamma, fatha or dhamma, fatha or dhamma. That's what it means. Now, when would it come with fatha or dhamma? That one has to do with the structure or pattern of the fi'l itself. And this is a sort of reason. This is not a nahaw reason. The reason for which you can use either na or nu is not nahaw related. It is sarf related. So inshallah, when we come to sarf, you know that we have 10 families in Arabic, and the family number 2 and family number 1. If it is a family number 2, then the mudari will start with you. But if it is family number 1, then the mudari will start with ya, with fatha. That's the only difference. But when will we reach there, inshallah, if God permits that we do the sarf together, okay? But the most important thing is that it can be ya, it can be you, okay? But look at here, for instance, nasara, this is the root word here is nasara. The root word here is allama. So all words like that sound like allama would take the you, or would take the dhamma on the anita harf. If the word sounds like nasara, then it will take ya. Like kharaja, yakhruju. Fataha, yaftahu. Nasara, yansuru. Okay? Kataba, yaktubu. Because it's ta 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 ta. All those will start with ya. But when you say darraba or darrasa is yudarrisu. Darraba is yudarribu. Kallama is yukallimu. Fassara yufassiru. You don't say yafassiru. Okay, so all words that sound with the 4-letter words with the middle one doubled or having a shadda would all have the u sound. So that's what this means. So these are the examples. Now let's quickly go through them. The ya or you plus the ya or you, sorry, the ya or you represent huwa. So yansuru, ya or you, huwa. Ya or you plus ani. So you can see ya or you, then ending is ani, ani. So yansurani, yuallimani. That represents huma for masculine. Ya you plus una. So ya you plus una at the end. As I said, we'll look at the beginning and the end. So the plus represents what is the root letter or the actual fail root letters, right? So yansurani is ya and una, or you and una, yuallimuna. Ya or you plus sukun nun. Sukun nun is for hunna. So ya surna. So ya na or you na. Na. When I say na, I mean there is a sukun before the nun. Always represents hunna. Then tatu or here, for here or anta. Now note this one a small confusion is, not small confusion. The pronoun huwa and here use the same fail. So here tansuru and anta tansuru. It's the same thing. Now how do we differentiate it? By context, we will know, depending on the context of the sentence, okay? But the fail is the same. Huwa, sorry, here tansuru, anta tansuru, okay? Here tuallimu, anta tuallimu. And then ta'tu plus ani for huma and antuma. I mean, they represent the same thing. So huma for here, antuma for anta. They also use the same thing, okay? So the here, huma, anta, antuma. They also use tansurani and tansurani, the same thing. So huma tansurani if they are feminine pair, third person, and huma, antuma tansurani if they are second person pair, masculine, okay? You use the same fail. And then let's go to antum. Antum is what? Ta or two plus una, antum, tansuruna, antum, tuallimuna. So ta, like here, two, like here, plus una, like here, una here. That's antum. So anytime I see ta at the beginning, una at the end is for antum, fi'l mudari'. And then ta two plus ina, this is peculiar for anti. Anti tansurina, anti tuallimina. Ta or two plus na. So this is antunna. You see the difference between antunna and hunna is the ya and ta. The antunna has a ta at the beginning. The hunna has a ya at the beginning. But the end is having sukun nun. Sukun nun. Okay? Don't forget that. Ana is very simple. It's having hamza at the beginning. Nahnu is very simple, having nun at the beginning. Isn't that easy? Ana ansuru, nahnu nansuru. And then ana uallimu, nahnu nuallimu. These markers need to be put into our minds. Now, this is what we just mentioned, okay? In revising, we say huwa, ya and u. Yansuru, yajlisu, yaktubu, yazhabu. Huma yansurani, huma yazhabani, huma yaktubani, huma yajlisani. هم يأنؤون يأنؤون هم ينصرون هم يكتبون هم يجلسون. Here تأنؤ هي تجلس هي تكتب هي تفرح هي تأكل. هما تأنآني. Of course, this is feminine. You see the masculine, the difference between the masculine and feminine. Though they are all huma, but the masculine has a ya and the feminine has a ta. Both having ani because it's pair. Don't forget that. Okay. And one of the things we have also learned earlier, which I didn't tell you, is that all the third persons have a ha. So who, ha, he, who. And all the second persons, I did mention have something common. Ta 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 ta. Okay, very good, very very important. These are some of the things that will help us. So huma ta'ani hunna ya'na anta ta'u. So tansuru tansuru. Of course, we said anta and here is the same. Okay, and antuma and huma is the same. The fields are the same. The context will differentiate. Antum ta'nuna, tansuruna, anti ta'nina, antuma ta'nani. So the difference between ta and ani here and ya and ani for huma. So antuma, of course, antuma masculine and antuma feminine are also the same. It depends on the context. Antunna ta'na, antunna tansuruna, sorry, tansurna. There's a difference between tansurna and tansuruna. Una is for antum, na is for antunna. Ana ansuru, nahnu nansuru. Na. This is ana and nahnu are very easy because there is nothing at the end. There is no additional harfs, but they begin with nun and hamza for nahnu and ana, respectively. Okay, and you can see here, of course, the pronoun table, singular, pair, plural, and then the persons here. Third person, second person, first person, masculine, feminine. You remember this table that we drew in our minds at the beginning of the course, right? We'll take a short break and then we'll come and see the different kinds of fi'l mudari. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, we are back. Let's quickly look at fi'il mudari when it is light. Now, here we say it's light. Please don't ask me for the ball. There is nothing, it's nothing about the ball. It's just a terminology, okay, in this program to differentiate between saying nasb for the status of nasb of an ism and also that of the fi'il. So we shouldn't confuse the two. That's why this terminology is used here for the fi'il to said to be light. Light means mansub, right? In terms of fi'il. There we said nasb, which is used for the ism, okay? So isms in this context cannot be light. It's fi'ils that can be light, okay? Now, how does an ism become light and lightest? We'll talk about light and lightest. It's actually the same terminology, you know, when we talk about nasb al-fi'l mudara and then jazm al-fi'l mudara. So jazm is lightest, nasb is light. That's what we use in this particular context, just to differentiate it from the ism. So we say an ism is light when it is having fatha at the end of it. Note, when it's having fatha at the end of it, and that's what you know as mansubun. Here we say it's light. The fi'l mudari is light, okay? And fi'l mudari can be light when it is preceded by certain harf. Finish. So fi'l mudari normal is yansuru. Yansuru is normal. We call it normal. Note, we have normal, light, lightest. Fi'l mudari normal, fi'l mudari light, and fi'l mudari lightest. This is how we use it in the, these are the terminologies we use in this model, okay? Now, when we say fi'l mudari is normal, it means it's standing alone, like yansuru, yadribu, yazhabu, yajlisuna, tajlisuna, tajlisina, and so on. All of those that we have just learned, they are normal. The moment I precede it with certain harf, that is known as the harf of light, it causes it to be light. That's what it means. And those harf of light are an, lan, izan, li, kay, likay, hatta. These are the harfs. We'll see them now. But for you to know that normally a fi'il stands without any light or lightest, right? Like what we have just learned. Look, okay. Now the moment is preceded by certain harfs, the fi'il becomes light. Light means it will take fatha. So I will say yansura instead of yansuru. So it takes fatha, right? That is light. If it's having noon in the fi'il, like yansurani, all I have to do is to remove the noon. So I will say yansura, yansura instead of yansurani. So yansura is light, yansurani is heavy. Sorry, not heavy. There's no heavy here. It's normal. It's normal. So light and normal in this sense of the fi'il. We did heavy and light in terms of the ism. Don't forget that. Here we are having light and normal, or lightest and normal, or lightest, light and normal. Okay. So when I say yansuru and yansura, yansuru and yansura, or yansuruna and yansuru, the difference is that one is light and one is normal. Okay. So all we have to learn in this particular context is what are the harfs that makes a fi'l mudari light by making it fatha if it has no letters at the end, it has noon at the end, or dropping the noon if it has a noon for it to become light or lightest. Okay, good. So let's go through the slides. Now, this is what it says. To make the present tense light, the hunna and antunna version do not change. Now note, hunna and antunna is for feminine plural. Feminine plural fails. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. They cannot be touched. Okay? This tells you that when the pronouns are feminine plural, they are untouchable. So in case of being light or lightest, they don't know those things. These two pronouns don't know that. So they are not affected. So antun hunna yansurna and antunna tansurna cannot be made light or even lightest. We'll come to that. It can't be made lightest. It will still be the same. So if I make If an or it, sorry, an, lan, izan, kay precedes a fi'l that is having antunna as the doer, we will still be the same as normal. Don't forget that. Okay. Now, if the present tense ends with u, then just change the u to a. Finish. If the present tense ends with noon, then remove the noon. That's all. That makes it light. That makes it light. Okay. So light present tense charge. So yansura instead of the yansuru we took. Don't forget this table. Though. You see now they are not putting anything here because you know. Abi, you know that. All right. Here is what? Singular, pair, plural. This is third person, this two. These two are second person, and this one is first person. The first line is masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. You know, I told you that that table needs to be in our minds, right? Why is these two merged? Because it's for nahnu for pair and nahnu for plural. Okay. So huwa, don't forget our pronouns too. Huwa, huma, hum. Hiya, huma, hunna. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. Ana, nahnu. I said it. Don't get confused. It's because you did not follow us from the beginning. Okay. So it's all about pronouns. But in this case, they are light. Light, why? Because they are having fatha if there is no noon, or the noon is dropped if there is the noon in the normal state. Except these two states of antunna and hunna, their endings, the noon cannot be touched. Somebody will ask, why is it that this noon cannot be touched? I'll give you a secret now. Look at the last, look at the last root letter. The only root letter that has sukun is for the feminine. And so I made dowry. It has been tied. You can see the sukun. So this sukun ties the noon. So it doesn't allow the noon to be taken away. Simple. Okay? But in the rest, the rows are all open. E, e, u. But here is sukun. Therefore, you can't take my noon away. I'm sorry. Okay? So that's the secret for some of you. MashaAllah. Okay. And these are the harfs of lightest. We call them al-huruf al-nasiba lil-mudara. Al-huruf al-nasiba lil-mudara. That means the harfs that can cause fil mudara to be mansub. Okay? Light harfs. These are the harfs. An, lan, li, or likay, or kay. Sometimes you can have it li, sometimes you can have it kay, and sometimes you can have it likay. And these are the meanings of those words. So, an, lan, li, or kay, or is kay, and izan. Izan can be written like this, and it can be written like that. And hatta. Now, you see this hatta. Who can remember another hatta? Who can remember another hatta? You remember the hatta, which is the harf of jar. You remember that? Now, this is a hatta that deals with the fi'l. Yes. Okay. So, hatta is harf jar. Yes. So, hatta is harf jar, but in this case, it's harf of nas or harf of light. You don't see harf of nas. Yes. After mudara, sorry, before mudara, or before a fi'l, in this case, fi'l mudara, then it is harf nasibat al-mudara. But before an ism, it's what? Harf jar. Don't forget that. Hatta is very critical. Hatta matla'i is harf jar. Hatta ya'tiyaka is harf of light. Is that clear? Good. So don't forget an, lan, kay, likay, izan, and hatta. Okay? But look at the meanings. Please don't forget the meanings too. An means to. It's always used to connect. Okay? Lan means will not. In fact, sometimes it's translated as never. Likay, so that. Izan, in that case. Hatta, until. These harfs are key. Anytime you see them, the fi'l mudara after them becomes light. These are some of the examples. Inna Allah la yastahi an yadriba. That is why it's called yadribu, not yadribu. Why not yadribu? Because of the an. So an will make it light. But don't forget, the dua is the same. Okay. Inna Allah ya'murukum an tadhbahu baqaratan. So an tadhbahu, normally it's what? Tadhbahuna. Tadhbahuna. Where is the noon? Dropped by harf of light. This guy there has a work to do. This guy here has, you remember I told you harfs have work to do. The work of this harf is to make it light. The work of this is to make it light. This one is light by dropping of the noon. This one is light by making it fatha. وَلَن نُشْرِكَ بِرَبِّنَا أَحْدًا. نُشْرِكَ. Normally it's what? نُشْرِكُ. نَحْنُ نُشْرِكُ. لَن نُشْرِكَ. So it's the land that is making the work here. كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ. The fi'il is نُسَبِّحَ. Don't forget. So this is this fatha that we are talking about. This is light. Okay, fi'il mudara, light. Why is it light? Because it's preceded by kaf. What is the sign of light? Fatha. You see how the answers would be? Is this fi'il mudara normal or light or lightest? It is light. What makes it light? Okay. What is the sign of light? Fatha. لِيَكُونَ fi'il mudara, light. What makes it light? Li. What is the sign of light? Fatha. Okay. Who is the doer? Huwa. Who is the doer? Nahnu. Who is the doer? Nahnu. Who is the doer? Antum. Who is the doer? Huwa. Hatta yaqul ar-rasulu. Hatta is half of light. Is it not half of jar? Like batakala wa amin fi an ala hatta. Hatta. No, this is not half of jar. Why? Because it is succeeded by a fail, and the fail is mudara, and you can see the sign of light. So it is half of light. Cool. This is what caused the fatha, and the dua here is rasulu. This one is not huwa. Don't say huwa. This one, the dua here is rasulu, because it is an outside dua. We will talk about this later. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّهُنَّ. You see, hatta, half of light. Why is the light not dropping the noon? Because this is hunna, my dear. Hunna does not accept. Hunna does not accept any dropping of the noon. Please. They don't accept the dropping of the noon. Why? Because these are female, plural, my dear. Be careful. When they are together, you don't split them. Okay, good. So that's that for fi'il mudara, light. What about lightest? Lightest is very easy. It's actually the same rules. The same rules. Lightest, majzoom. The same rules. Hunna and antunna cannot change. If the present tense is having dhamma, like normal, change the dhamma to sukun. Finish. You see, if it's having noon at the end, drop the noon. So it's the same thing. But in this case, you see, instead of yansura for light, you see yansur as lightest. Tansur, tansur. But where the noon drops is the same, okay? Except here. Note, you can't touch them. Why? Because it is it is already dawri. I made dawri, right? It has been tied by this sukun. Just take it like that. The fi'il has tied its noon, so you can't take it away. That's interesting, isn't it? Good. So there are some harfs that will cause this to be lightest. And those harfs, we are going to talk about them now. The harf of light has been mentioned. Harf of lightest are also coming now. In lam, lamma, wal, fal, and li. Okay. Yansur, yansura, yansuru. Tansur, tansura, tansurna. Tansur, tansura, tansuru. Tansuri, tansura, tansurna. Ansur and nansur. And don't forget, we are talking about the pronouns here. Huwa yansur, huma yansura, hum yansuru, hiya tansur, huma tansura, hunna yansurna, anta tansur, antuma tansura, antum tansuru, anti tansuri, antuma tansura, antunna tansurna, ana ansuru, nahnu nansur. Sorry, ana ansur, nahnu nansur. Okay. There are some harfs that will cause this to be lightest, and these are the harfs in lam, lamma, and li. In lam, lamma, and li. Now, This one, this li, normally doesn't come alone in the Quran. It comes with waw and fow. So that's why most of the time we say wal or fal. So that lam is called lam that causes fi'l mudara to be lightest, lightest. Okay, so that's why we say in lamma wal fal before li, because wal and fal appears in Quran more as the lightest harf than li. Now, what is the difference between wal and fal? The wa and fa are actually atifa. They are conjunctions. The actual harf that causes the lightest is the li. But because it happens in Quran mostly with the atifa, that's why we say wal fal and li. So whenever you hear me say illam lamma wal fal li, I mean the harfs that are harfs of jazm. Okay. Okay. The la is not mentioned here because la is for nahi. Okay, la is for nahi. It has an extra meaning. That's why it's not brought here. Okay, we'll talk about that one later, inshallah. Okay, because in the case of la, when you remove it, you still can maintain the fi'l as it is. We'll talk about that later. But for now, these are the harfs of jazm. Okay, the la there, that is not the one that is causing the jazm. Okay, good. So let's go here and see some of the examples from the Quran. Innaka intazarhum. So you can see the in here being manifest. Innaka in. So in here causes the tazar to have a lightest sign, which is sukun. Innaka intazar. Yudillu. Yudillu is also lightest by dropping of the noon. Now, one of the works that noon does, sorry, in specifically does, is that it is a conditional harf. We'll talk about this also in the latter part of our course. And whenever you see in, it will have work to do on two fi'ls, fi'l mudara, okay? Because it's a conditional fi'l, one statement of condition and then the resultants of the condition. Both of them are lightest. This one is lightest by the sukun and this is lightest by dropping of the noon, okay? So the word here that is the lightest action, which means if, is here, okay, is the in. Lam tajidu, lam is working here. What has it done? It has dropped the noon of tajiduna, okay, so it makes it lightest. But lamma yazuqul adab, lamma is another, okay, it drops the noon. Falyastajibu, now you see that lam, so that this is the li. You see, fal and wal. That's how it appears. So, but the actual harf that does the lightest is the lam. Okay, but it's here is preceded by fa and here is preceded by wa, and that's how you find it a lot of the time in the Quran. But the actual the actual harf that does the action or task is the li. Okay, so wal fal and li. Okay, and what has the li done here, or fal done? It has caused this to be lightest. What shows that it is lightest? Dropping of the noon. What shows that this is lightest? Dropping of the noon. Alamatul jazma, sukutul noon. Alamatul jazm, sukutul noon. Okay, good. Now we'll take a short break and we will come back. We have finished fi'l mudara and the three types of fi'l mudara: normal fi'l mudara, light fi'l mudara, and lightest fi'l mudara. I'm done. I'm going to talk about fi'l amr and nahi when we come back for a short break. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so we continue with our discussion with fi'l today. Today is the day of fi'l, right? Madi has been done with. We have only one type of Madi. We have three types of Mudari: normal, light, lightest. We are going to see fi'l amr and nahi, two types of future tense, right? We are going to look at it in the context of tense. So anything that is of amr or nahi are actually in future. So let's come to, let me share my slides here. Okay. So this is what we're talking about. Command and forbidden fi'ls. Fi'l amr wa nahi. Now, listen to this common observations about amr and nahi and note them down. When we say amr or nahi, you cannot command or forbid in the past. So command and forbidden can never be in the past. So fi'l madi is never involved. Now, you cannot command yourself. So ana nahnu. There is no fa'il of command that can be ana or nahnu. Okay? You cannot command someone who is not there. So you cannot command huwa or here. So in the three levels of our pronouns, where you have the third person, second person, and first person, you cannot command the third person, the huwa, huma, hum, here, huma, hunna. Those pronouns can never be fa'il in fi'l amr and nahi. And the down, ana and nahnu, can also never be a fa'il in fi'l amr and nahi. The only part that can be fa'il in fi'l amr and nahi is anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. That's what this means. So anytime you hear fi'l amr or nahi, then the fa'il there can only be either anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. Very important. Okay, good. It's easier to forbid than to command. Why? I don't know why, but it actually is that, for instance, if I want to say, if I say kuli, that eat, you feminine singular, eat, okay? And la ta'kuli, don't eat. La ta'kuli is easier because ta'kuli is actually the light form of ta'kulina. So we have already stated fi'l mudari, ta'kulina, anti-ta'kulina. To make it to make it forbidden, I will just say la. If I put the la there, and then I will say ta'kuli. So first of all, I will make the ta'kuli lightest, and then I'll just put la there. It becomes forbidden. Easy. But for me to make it a command, the process is longer. I'll do some deductions, additions, and so on. And we'll look at why is it that command is more difficult than forbidden. Okay, forbidden, you just bring your la there, and you have already studied the fi'l mudari lightest. So you just bring a full mudari lightest and put la on it. So when I say la taktub, it's actually taktub, which is lightest, and then I bring my la taktub. Okay, but when I want to say write, I will say uktub. Now, why uktub? Where is this hamza, or sorry, this alif coming from? And why is the sound changing from taktub to uktub and so on? That we are going to learn. Finally, a grammatical command is not always really a command. It could also be a suggestion. So the amr sometimes can be a suggestion, it can be a motivation, it can be a permission, it can be an advice, request, imperative, or sarcasm. We'll see what these things, these observation things are. Okay. So if a command comes, and the command will always be command, or sometimes it's actually not a command. We'll see that. Okay. Now let's take the not difficult part of the future tense. That's forbidding. How do we form a forbidding fi'l? First, you bring your la. Okay, that's the forbidden la. La an-nahiya. Note, it's called la an-nahiya. Me honey. Nahiya, honey. It's nahi. Nahi ne. Okay, but honey, bunny. So in Hausa it's nahi and honey. Okay, so you can just remember that. Honey, Nahi. Nahi. La an-nahiya. La me nahawa. Not hanawa. Okay? Or you can say it's la alahaniya me hanawa. Okay? So that's how it's called. La, the one that forbids. You bring that la, you add it to a lightest present tense second person fi'il. Now note, it says lightest, present, and second person. Lightest means it takes sukun or it drops the noon, right? It takes sukun. When I say it takes sukun or drops the noon, you know what I mean. Okay? It takes sukun or drop the noon. That makes it lightest. And it has to be for second person. Right? The moment you do this, finish, you've had your forbidden. For instance, if I want to say, don't go, I want to command a single or a singular masculine person. Don't go. This is what I do. I will first of all bring my second person tense, which is tazhabu. So if I want to say, you, second person singular, you are going, or you go. Anta tazhabu ila al-madrasati kulla yawm, for instance. Okay? Ta'kulu. Ta'kuluna. So anta ta'kulu. Anta ta'kulu kulli yawm. The second thing, make the tazhabu lightest, just by making it, having sukun, giving it sukun. So I will say tazhab. Okay, instead of tazhabu, tazhab, that's the second step. The third step, you just bring your la. So it becomes la tazhab. Don't go. Finish. You see how easy it is to do a forbidding. So if I have here tajlisu, make it tajlis and put la tajlis. It becomes don't sit. Okay, very good. This is additional examples. This is the English command, don't eat. Normally, before you give the command, this is how it is. Ta'kulina, you feminine. Ta'kulina, anti ta'kulina kulla yawm. Now I want to say, don't eat. What I will have to do is to make this lightest by dropping the noon. Ta'kuli, then I will just add the lam to it. La ta'kuli. Don't learn, all of you, masculine, masculine, plural. Antum tata'allamuna, you are learning. To make it light, drop the noon. Tata'allamu, then I'll bring that silent alif, which is a standard. So this is one key thing. Anytime you see this ooh is actually fi'l mudar or is fi'l, okay? Tata'allamu, then I'll just bring my la tata'allamu, do not learn. All of you masculine plural. Feminine plural, don't write. Now note, you know feminine when they are plural, the noon, the tunna is not touched. So you see here we say taktubna when it is lightest, and la taktubna when it's also forbidden. So this does not drop the noon. We already have mentioned that. Note that the difference between a statement and a command. Okay, now we did mention this earlier, that not all statements of this kind of forbidden can be forbidden actually. So when I say la taktubu kutuban, there's difference between la taktubu kutuban and la taktubu kutuban. This is not forbidden. Why? Very easy, because it's not lightest. It's not having sukun. So this lam is not a forbidden lam. This one is a negating lam or a negation lam. It negates. This is called la an-nafiya. Tanfi hudus al-fi'l. Tanfi hudus al-fi'l is just saying that this action does not happen. But la an-nahiya, in la an-nahiya, the fi'l mudara is lightest. So la taktub, la taktub kutuban. Don't write books. Now, in an answer to Aisha's question earlier, this la is not the la that is causing the fi'l mudara to be lightest. That's what I want you to understand. Okay? Because the la here couldn't do that. Because this is a different kind of la and this is the different kinds of la. So that's what we say. It's not the duty of this la, else here would have also been lightest. So this la, if you get it confused, thinking that it's the one that caused the la, the sukun, then you'll have problem. The issue is that the point is that you will make it lightest yourself before bringing the la, so that it will be here. That's the process that is shown earlier. I hope that is clear. So how do we know if the fi'l is an observation or if it is forbidden. Very easy. The la is the same, but the fi'l mudari' will be normal if it is an observation. I'm just observing, saying that you don't write books. It's an observation that writing books is not your duty. But here I'm saying, I'm giving you a forbidden kind of instruction. Do not, you singular masculine, do not write books. So the difference here is, you can see, the fa'il here is anta. The fa'il here is anta. The maf'ul is kutuban. The maf'ul is kutuban. But in this case, this is la nafiya. And that's why the fi'l mudara is normal. It's not affected. Okay. But la and nahiya, in the case of la and nahiya, the fi'l mudara is affected. Okay. It has to be in the lightest form. In this case, but the dua in both cases is anta. Okay. Very good. Commanding. Let's quick. I think there is someone here. Okay, this one says here, Sheikh, I wish you the best. It just changed. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Zakallah khair. Okay, so commanding. Now let's look at commanding. We have just finished from forbidden. Forbidden is easy. Make the fi'l mudari' lightest, put la on it. Finish. Fi'l mudari' second person. But the same thing with commanding. If you want to command, you start with a second person. Okay, again, second person. You remember, you can't command and forbid third person. You can't command and forbid first person. So commanding and forbidding is only for second person. This needs to be marked. Okay. Now, what you do is the second person fi'l mudari'. Now note, second person fi'l mudari' has a ta. Remove that ta. That's why they say commanding is more difficult, right? Remove that ta first. If the word can be read, leave it. That is your command. Finish. That's your fi'l amr. If the word cannot be pronounced or read, add a helper alif. Helper alif? What alif is a helper alif? We will see. Now, how do you determine the haraka of the helper alif? Helper alif can be either u or e. Now, if the second last letter of the huwa form of the fi'il has u, of the present tense has u, then the helper alif will have u. Otherwise, the helper alif will have e. What is that? We'll look at that example. It means, what it really means is that, for instance, when I say jahidu, antum tujahiduna, for instance, antum tujahiduna, you are striving. Okay. When I want to make it fi'l mudari', first of all, because of course it's second person, antum tujahiduna. Second person, plural. Drop the ta'u. It becomes what? Tujahidu. Tujahidu. Sorry, jahidu. When I remove the ta, it becomes jahidu because it becomes lightest now. So jahidu is readable and it is lightest and it's a command. Finish. That is the fi'l amr. Jahidu, because it's lightest and it's pronounceable. Okay, very good. But in the case of the word, for instance, jalasa and antum tajlisuna, and when I want to say sit down, I will remove the ta and make it lightest. I will remove the ta, it becomes jilisu. Jilisu. I cannot say jilisu because no Arabic word starts with a sukun. That's where you have to bring your helper alif. So I will say either ijlisu or ujlisu. There are two forms of saying that. I can say ijlisu, not ujlisu. Why? Because the present tense of tajlisuna, because the present tense of tajlisuna, the last but one is having kisra. So in this case, I will say ijlisu because the last but one letter has kisra in tajlisu, li before the su. So it is kisra. So I say ijlisu. If it was, for instance, antum taktubuna, and then I want to say write, I will say uktubu because in the fi'l mudari normal is taktubu. Now the last but one letter is having u. So that is the explanation of this helper alif, okay, which is needed, which needs to be brought. Somebody has just raised his or her hand. I hope it's not a mistake. But if that is not a mistake, can I hear from her? Hawa Yusuf, do you have a question? Are you raising your hand for a question? Can you speak, or you lower your hands forever not to raise it? Okay. Unmute yourself, or you keep your hands lowered. Okay, good. So we can go ahead. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide that gives you the steps that we've just spoken about. You want to say go. You want to give the command to a singular person, masculine. Go. How do you do that? Tazhabu is the fi'l mudari. Make it light. Tazhab. Remove the ta. Hab. You cannot pronounce that. That's not Arabic. That mall is like Nakashtabandiya. This is a language. Ask me where it is from. You can't just pronounce Vihab. Okay, so you bring a helper alif to make you pronounce it. Now, how do I pronounce this? Is it uzhab, azhab, or izhab? It will be izhab. Why? Because if you look at the normal fi'l mudari, it's tazhabu. The last but one letter has a fatha. So if it happens like this with the fatha, then the helper alif would take kisra. Okay, if the last but one would have had dhamma, then the helper alif will have dhamma, like taktubu. If it has been taktubu, tubu, the tau is having dhamma, so I will say uktub. Okay. Now tansuru, yeah, it's going to give you an instance here. Look at this, tansuru. You see the last but one letter is here. Note, this is not the last but one letter, because this noon is the noon of the feminine plural. Don't forget, the root letter is nasara. So the last but one is u, tansuru. You make it lightest by saying tansur. Why is the noon not being dropped? Because this is the plural of feminine, right? You can't drop the noon, so you maintain it. Tansur. Sur, when the ta is dropped. In this case, the ta can be dropped. You realize that the ta can be dropped here. Then sur, you can't start with a sukun. You bring a helper alif, and then you put dhamma on it. Why dhamma, not kisra? Because in the fi'l mudari normal, the last but one letter here takes dhamma. Okay. And then the last point, learn. Learn. That's what I want to say to a female plural. So I will say the first thing, tata'allami. Sorry, this is a female singular. Tata'allamina. Anti tata'allamina. You are learning. This is the normal fi'l mudari. To make it a command, first of all, make it lightest by dropping the noon. Noon is dropped here. Why? Because it's a singular feminine. She's alone. Alone. You know, because she's alone, we can remove a noon. Okay? Tata'allamina. And then you remove the first ta. So we have ta'allami. It's pronounceable. You don't need to do anything. This is the command. Okay? Very good. Then we'll take this last exercises and then we'll call it a day, inshallah. Okay. So let's look at here. Based on what we have just learned, sharpen your fingers for the next 3 minutes. We are going to do this quickly. I want to take some 3 questions or 4. Determine if the word is a command, a forbidden, or a normal observation. Now, we know what is a command. What is a forbidden? But what is, you remember that it can be a normal observation if the rules of the command or forbidden do not apply. You remember that? Okay, like izhab. Izhab is a command. Okay, and then also you have to mention what is the commanding fi'l. Okay, or the root or where the fi'l is coming from, its original fi'l. So izhab is a command. How do I know it's a command? Well, number 1, it is lightest. Good. Number 2, the helper alif here is having kisra because the normal fi'l mudari is tazhabu. Oh, tazha. It's having fatha. So fatha or dhamma will make the fatha, fatha or kisra of the last but one letter will make the helper alif kisra. But if it's having dhamma, then the helper alif will also be dhamma. In this case, la yazukuna. Is the fi'l mudari' command, forbidden, or observation? This is observation. Why? Because you can see that the fi'l mudari' is normal. So if the fi'l mudari' is normal, not lightest, then it cannot be a forbidden and it cannot be a command. Therefore, it's an observation. Even though we have this la, yes, but this la is not la for forbidden. This is a la for negation. La an-nafiya. Okay. So this one is an observation, and the normal fi'l mudari' is yazukuna as it is. Okay. Good. Okay. Fabashir. Sorry, this one is not yazukuna. The fi'l mudari' is yazuku. Okay. Yazuku. Huwa yazuku. For us to understand the root of the word. Fabashirhum. This is a command. Why is it a command? Bashir with the lightest. So this is a command. Wazkur. This is a command. How do I know? You can see that it's having lightest, and the dua here is anta. The dua here is also anta. La tuta. Do not. You anta. The dua here is anta also. Okay. La nudi'u. This one is an observation. It's not a command. It's not a forbidden. Of course, if you see the la, you think it's a forbidden. It's not a forbidden because the fi'l mudari' is normal. La yugadiru, the same thing. This one is not a forbidden, even though we see this la. How do I know that? Because the fi'l mudari' is normal. Usjudu is a command. Why? It is lightest. You can see that it is lightest and it's starting with the u, which is a helper alif. Okay? Tasjuduna. Normally it's tasjuduna. Antum tasjuduna. You are prostrating. To make it lightest, you make it light. You drop the nun. Tasjudu. Number 2. Drop the ta. If you drop the ta, it becomes sjudu. You can't pronounce it. Why? Because it starts with a sukun. Then you bring your helper alif, and then the helper alif is made dhamma. Why? Because the last but one letter is having dhamma. Okay. Nadu. Nadu is also another command. Okay. Command. How do you know it's a command? It's lightest. Okay. You can see that the nun has been dropped. Okay. So antum tunaduna. Tunaduna. Antum tunaduna. If I drop the nun, it becomes tunadu. I drop the ta, it becomes nadu. I don't need to do anything. I just leave it as it is. Fala tas'alni. Anta. Tas'al. Anta. Tas'alni. So this is a forbidden. Do not ask me. Do not ask me. Then do not ask me. Okay. La tu'akhizni. Initially, I said I was going to try to test you, but we'll do that very early in the morning tomorrow after I've just explained this last one. La tu'akhizni. La tu'akhizni. La here is a forbidden la. How do I know? This is tu'akhizni. Tu'akhiz. Anta tu'akhiz. Have you seen? You make it light. Here you don't drop the nun. Don't forget, for the forbidden, you don't drop the nun. Sorry, the ta. You just drop the nun. I tu'akhiz. Anta tu'akhizu. Anta tu'akhizu. Okay? Then it becomes tu'akhiz. Then you bring your la tu'akhiz. It's very easy to forbid. That's why you say, because in the case of forbidding, you don't drop the ta. In the case of commanding, you have to drop the ta. The last one here I'm going to take is faktubuhu. Faktubuhu. Then write it. Is it a command or a forbidden? Definitely it's not a forbidden because you can see the forbidden la. But is this a command? Yes. How do you know? Iktubu is from taktubuna. The nun was dropped to become taktubu. And then the ta was taken out. Becomes what? Ktubu. I can't pronounce it. I need a helper alif. Brought there. Then it becomes uktubu. Uktubu. But when the fa comes there, the u of the uktubu becomes silent. It's assimilated. So we say faktubu. So the dua here is antum. Faktubu antum. Okay, we'll look at more of these examples and a lot of exercises tomorrow, inshallah, of what we have learned today. All what we have learned today is more about fail, and inshallah we'll meet tomorrow to talk about a lot of the exercises. To quickly recap, we have learned fails, Madi, Mudari, Amr, Nahi, 4 different kinds of fail. Madi, how to identify a Madi, memorize your poems, identify the doers inside and the attached pronouns, how to identify fi'l mudari. You need to know that you need to look at the beginning and the end. The anita need to be there, and then the end, either having the u or ani or ina, and so on, right? Fi'l amr and nahi. Amr is more difficult than nahi. Nahi because you bring the la and nahiya. Just bring the la and nahiya, make the fi'l mudari lightest. Okay, and the lightest thing that we have discussed about in fi'l mudari is very, very important. The an, lan, izan, li, kay, and likay, and hatta. These are all harf of light. And in lam, lamma, wal, fal, and li are harfs of light tests. Harf of light tests. Harfs of light test and harfs of light need to just be memorized so that anytime we see it preceded by or succeeded by fi'l mudari, we know that it is light or lightest. But the issue of Jumla fi'liya, we are going to look at the details tomorrow when we get to learn about the components of Jumla al-fi'liya, that is the fi'il, fa'il, and the maf'ul. But don't forget, anytime we talk about fi'il, we have to remember that the fa'il must be known. That fa'il can be a pronoun inside, or it can be an outside doer. We'll look at those things inshallah tomorrow. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr. الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.